I really believe that you drink whatever the hell you want and leave the rest of it alone. If you don't like black IPAs, don't shit on black IPAs. I mean, just don't drink them.
And that was Mark from Drekker Brewing Company on this week's episode of Brew Roots.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brew Roots, where we tell the stories behind your favorite beer. This is Sound Guy Ryan, and joining me as always is Erica and Matt.
That's right, we're here.
Here we are.
It's been quite a week.
Oh, it's been a week.
We did lots of drinking. Ryan is officially done with school.
I got the official word.
So congratulations again.
Yep. Thank you.
You're a master.
I am a master. Yes,
A master
I am.
of sound.
A
I'm
master of
technically, if you want to really be technical, I'm the smartest one here.
Technically.
I mean,
yeah,
sure. Yeah, okay. On paper.
Yeah, on paper.
On paper. Wait, you don't have a master's degree?
No.
Neither do I. High five.
All I am is an educated idiot. That's all you got to say.
Well, on paper, Ryan, you are an educated idiot.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Seriously.
So I'm sure many of our followers and listeners have read all the posts that they've seen out there from Rat Magnet, Brianne Allen from Notch. Yeah, it's been a tough week to read a lot of those posts. And we're here to kind of just spread the word that we want to be a positive change in the industry across the board, right? You know, whether it's speaking up or giving the right resources to people out there who have experienced any sort of discrimination or abuse or just not feeling like they belong. Because there's no space for that in any industry, whether it's music.
Right. It's not just the beer industry. I know that's what's being
yeah.
highlighted, this past week. But, this issue is worldwide and it's in every industry.
Yeah. And, we're not here to play the judge, the jury, or the executioner, right? There are two sides to every story. And we want our listeners to be informed of, some of the resources out there. So, we always joke in the doobly doo below, but seriously, in the link below, we are going to list a few of the resources. I know the Brewers Association has a code of conduct that needs to be utilized.
Yeah, and they also have a resource where you can, report whatever you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or experienced.
And if you're lucky enough that you work in a place of work, whether you work like myself in the engineering field that has an HR department or something like that, we encourage you to report these things because, whether all these stories are true or none of these stories are true, you need to report these because people need to be held accountable and ultimately people need to be kind and humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is what this comes down to. We got to leave this place better than we received it. And, yeah, I think, if you see something, say something and, just be a human.
Yeah.
So, I don't have much more to talk about this week. We have a longer episode with our friends Drekker. Ryan, are you okay with going to the interview?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just as always, support local.
And be kind.
And be kind.
And get ready for mass reopening.
That's right.
May 29th. What?
And, we'll see you on the outro because I'm sure it will be a lot less more professional than this. And cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you once again. You've made it through our intro, which is...
It's always a feat.
It's always a feat when we have listeners who've made it to the
great job.
The meat and potatoes, if you will, of this interview. And I'm very excited because we at Brew Roots, we have a mission. We wanted to get 50 breweries from 50 different states.
Yep.
And we got one in a state that I desperately want to go to for no reason other than I just want to go to this state. I've told people, I've told people I want to go to North Dakota.
Cool.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think
Is it the movie? Does that?
The correct answer, I think, Mark is looking for is the beer.
Yeah, because I want to go. I want to go to Drekker. No,
yes.
No, that is a huge reason. But yeah, I like the movie, I guess. But
Fargo, if you will.
Yeah, Fargo. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah,
it's new.
It's new.
It's not
place.
new. So, Mark, what's up?
Happy to be here with you guys. This is fun to talk about. I'd love to talk about all the things that I think make Fargo an awesome place and North Dakota a cool state.
Yeah, I would love to actually learn more about that. But before we get into that, can you just introduce yourself real quick? Tell us your role at the brewery and your first memory of beer.
Oof. So my name is Mark Bjornson. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm the president at Drekker Brewing Company. And my first memory of beer.
Mark, it's weird. It's weird that you said that. It says you're the captain of the Drekker ship. So we have some conflicting reports on your role now. So
yeah, we trade them around like they're like revolving, musical chairs of titles.
Yeah.
We try to be a little bit grandiose and cheeky about that. Yeah, my first memory of beer. I remember when I was a little kid, my dad just, he had his like very specific style of beer that he drank. And he would literally only drink that when like friends or people were over. And just seeing I remember how excited he was to drink that beer with his friends and stuff. And I think that's probably one of my first memories of beer. Nice. Where I figured something was going on here.
Do you recall that said beer, the one that he's excited about?
Oh, that's Grain Belt Primos. That's I don't know if you guys probably don't have that out in Massachusetts.
No, it does not ring a bell.
So yeah, Grain Belt's the brewing company. It's now brewed by Shell's, which is the second oldest continuously operated private brewery in the country.
Oh,
I think
cool.
Yingling
first.
Yeah.
First. So that's Grain Belt Premium.
Nice. All right. So I am always curious. I think a lot of people, they look at the map, and I know where North Dakota is, right? Like it's at the top. It's at the top. But what makes North Dakota and specifically Fargo cool and like a destination for beer? I mean, when you look at the lists, your hop culture or whatever, and I don't care about those lists, right? Like they really make no difference. I don't particularly see like North Dakota in the top 10, or that list. Why is this a beer destination right now, and why?
Yeah, what I think makes North Dakota and Fargo cool is it's a really approachable place. It's sometimes I think it's maybe harkens back to more of the community focused area of like how I grew up. But also I think there's some progressive aspect to that too. That's what a lot of people are trying to get back to, where people are friendly. It's all about community, getting out and celebrating together. And one thing that I think makes Fargo awesome about that is that a lot of people think about our winters up here and think, how could we live? They wonder, like, is the tap room dead when it's 20 below and no one will come out? Like, actually, the tap room is probably at its most packed during a blizzard and during that stuff, because people want to get out, they want to get warm, they want to be around each other, and it makes you congregate and want to celebrate around each other, because can't be outside, doing other stuff. So it brings people together too, and that's really what I think Fargo is all about. And Fargo is this cool little island of its own thing. There's not much around it. This is an agricultural, area community, so it's a lot of farmland. But Fargo is just this sweet little weird town where lots of fun stuff happening, lots of cool people doing crazy stuff, and it's a really great place that we get to call home.
Yeah. Talk about people congregating. You have 3 other, on your staff. I see Darren, I see Jesse, and then I see Mason. Talk about how you guys, your path intertwined. It says you guys are friends brewing in a garage. Is it just that, or what more was it?
No, I mean, really, what brought us together to brew in the garage was really to start the brewery. We weren't just accidentally doing that stuff. We were either living elsewhere, had been, had just moved back after school, or we're looking at getting back to Fargo. And this is earlier 2000s when tap rooms were starting to become a thing. The craft beer scene was coming up. And that was something that we really loved about the craft beer scene was how it could bring people together, how breweries were becoming, community third spaces. And that most recently, if you think about Friends, had been a coffee shop, but then Wi-Fi had killed that in coffee shops. And we just loved that energy, that community and camaraderie that we were seeing start to happen around craft beer. And we wanted to be a part of bringing that to Fargo. And the 4 of us that started it had this shared idea of what we were doing, this this purpose for why we were going to do it. And we all happened to have kind of what we figured were four corners of the brewery in our professional background and in our passion and expertise. And so we put it together and, pretty much bought a brewery pilot system and installed it in my garage, and then spent 2 years working on recipes, getting the business together, getting this vision dialed in, and really honing in on what we were going to, what this thing was that we were going to try and create.
Nice. So you created Drekker. Was that the original name for the brewing company? Did you guys have like a plan B name that somebody in Rhode Island had, or so on and so forth?
No, I don't think we ever got sniped on like the name we always wanted.
Oh, lucky.
But we had, we had chalkboards and whiteboards that were just, you sit around and have a couple of beers and you can rip out 100 names. Like, what about,
right?
So we talked about a lot of different stuff, and a lot of that danced around, what our overall brand vision was going to be, and how were we going to tie this fabric into the community, and what was the story going to be around that.
And so that is where the Viking kind of thing came from, or?
Yeah. So, North Dakota and Minnesota, there's a huge population of people that emigrated from Scandinavia that were out here. And so there's a lot of Scandinavian culture in our community. There's just a lot of elements of that. There's museums around that stuff. And so we wanted something that harkened to that a little bit, but also told another part of the story where we're trying to go. So Drekker as a word, it has some references to like that Viking dragon ship. And so there's a big rebuilt Viking ship that somebody sailed all the way to Norway, and it's in a museum now. It's just this really cool element of our community. And then Drekker as part of the root word, Drek means that's to drink. That's like the verb in Old Norse. And in Icelandic, which is like the current language that's closest to Old Norse, or that Scandinavian root language, Drekker is the term for what it means to go out and share a drink around a table, and kind of the camaraderie and to drink with friends. And so we loved all of those elements getting put together. Didn't really have to mean anything to that, because that was going to be the whole intention of what we were driving out anyway. That's where we landed on that one.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
Awesome.
I love the message there.
Yeah. What year did you guys first open?
So we opened our first brewery in October of 2014.
Wow. So right before everything took off, beers were still kind of in bombers at that point. The 16-ounce cans didn't take off a little bit later. But what were some of the first beers that you brewed, and are those still in rotation today?
So when we first opened, we were doing a couple different versions of like American IPAs. We had an Irish Red, a black IPA. I really thought that black IPAs at that time were going to be the next IPA.
I still hope they are. We love them.
Yeah.
We actually did a collab a few years ago where we took our current flagship IPA recipe and pretty much just subbed out some base malt and put in a little bit of like Carafa 3 on, dehusked, debittered,
nice.
Black, and it was everything I ever wanted a black IPA to be in.
Yes,
it was good for what it was. And then we had porter. And a few other beers, blonde ale that we rotated around, and then very quickly we started getting into sours shortly after opening.
Now, are you guys kettle souring, or is it all?
So all of the beers that you probably know us for are all kettle soured.
Yep.
We have a huge warehouse of mixed and spontaneous firm sours that are going right now.
Cool.
We've released a few of them over there, but those are probably, some of those are still. We have about a 3-year time horizon on a few of those beers, so they're maybe a year or two away.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So those beers that you mentioned, you said the blonde, the black IPA. Are any of those still on tap today? Do you harken back to those recipes, or completely different?
We still make our Irish Red. That's Broken Rudder. That's one of our most popular beers around here. Just is super approachable, kind of that Irish Red pub ale.
Yeah.
And then we still make our porter out of that. That's Pillager Porter. Nice. And so both of those are still really popular in Fargo and really popular at the tap room. But we make about, I think last year we did 125 different beers over the year, and 80 to 90 of those were just brand new.
Wow.
So we keep them around, but there's a heavy mix.
Yeah. Sounds like it. So has the hazy IPA craze taken over there, or not yet?
Oh yeah, no. So we've been brewing hazy IPAs since probably 2016. I love drinking American IPAs. I never felt, we wanted to make a ton of different beers. We wanted to always be extremely, I never felt like an American IPA was a good platform to do that. If you get a good American IPA, you stick with that. There's balance, and I don't think people want to have 7 American IPAs or West Coast IPAs of the 14 taps they have.
Yeah.
I don't think
you haven't been to Massachusetts.
To me, and maybe that's personally, I don't want to drink 5 different American IPAs in succession, because
we personally would agree.
Yeah. Just the nature of how those beers are built. By the fourth one, I can't even taste what hops this is anymore. It's not bad. It's just,
you get hop burnt out. It's like you get hop burn.
Yeah, your palate's burnt out.
I was good. Like, you get fuzzy tongue off of that. But with hazy IPAs, it's phenomenal. I mean, that's all you want to do is make different ones and try different ones. And so we did our first hazy we were working on in 2016, and so that was Wheeze the Juice. And once, back then that was barely something people were talking about. There was tons of folklore and, like, is it the chloride level? Is it the folklore? Is it the chloride that makes the softness, or how much oat or wheat, or what's the secret? And
people putting flour,
putting flour in there to get permanent haze. There's tons of stuff. Is it Conan or is it London Ale 3? And
right.
It was kind of like everyone kind of talked about. There was like a secret ingredient that was always involved, and it's like just what it happens to be is there's like 18 different variables that you just have to dial in. And so then since then we've just ripped out a million of them, and we love hazy IPAs. That's they're phenomenally popular out here, and we were kind of one of the first ones that pushed that forward, and we love them.
Yeah. Cool. Before we get into your sour program and what the beers that people know you from, we have to get a quick word from our sponsors. So take it away, sound guy Ryan.
Did you know that your favorite Massachusetts breweries use hops from a local family-owned hop farm right here in Massachusetts?
Our friends over at 4 Star Farms are there for you whether you're a commercial brewery or a small batch home brewer.
Make sure to head over to their website today and get your hands on some of the best and freshest hops available locally. Cheers.
At our local homebrew shop, Beer and Wine Hobby, you can get everything you need to make beer, wine, cider, cheese, and more. Not sure where to start? They have knowledgeable staff there to help. Beer and Wine Hobby is family-owned and located in Danvers, Massachusetts. Visit their website, beer-wine.com, and use our promo code BREWROOTS for 10% off your online order today.
Shirks on Tap is the box subscription service where you can get some of the dopest brewery t-shirts out there. I'm talking breweries from Dallas, San Diego, and even our home area of New England. And you might ask, how do I get my hands on some? To get your first box for $5, click the link below in our description, or head on over to our website, brewroots.com. Remember, drink better beer, wear better shirts. All right, so you got me thirsty for some Hazy Boys, which... Check my pulse.
Usually.
Like, make sure. Like,
are you okay?
Yeah. But I love a good sour, especially when a kettle sour is done well. You guys are known for the sour game that you guys are putting out. Are sours big in North Dakota right now, or are you guys kind of on the forefront of that, like you were with hazy IPAs, New England Ale style?
I think we definitely drive the market out here. We're the largest brewery, one of the oldest in the States. Our sours are really popular out here, and they fill the brewery, and we have a lot of fun with them. So we had to get people used to those. But I think as a country, as the whole American craft beer scene, those were, around 2015 is when we were pushing those out. That was kind of hard to describe to people. Like, they hadn't heard of sour ales before.
Right?
Like, you shouldn't call this sour then. They think of it immediately like sour milk, and like, let's call them tart ales.
Right.
They're huge.
It's always interesting. We have a couple breweries out here that use passion fruit in their sours. I think last week I talked to Erica, and we don't actually know what passion fruit tastes like, correct?
Yeah, there's like a couple different fruits that just are like, what are these?
Or guava.
Can
you explain what passion fruit tastes like in beer and what's the intended purpose for passion fruit?
So we always joke about, guava to us is like an insurance policy. It's always going to be awesome. It's going to make everything better. It's got this great body to it.
Every hazy IPA, New England style IPA, is like, we have guava or pineapple.
Yeah. Or mango.
Okay, all right. I know what those two taste like, but guava, I mean, like.
Yeah, guava also happens to be one of the cheapest fruits available. So that's a reason why it gets used a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
But passion fruit is one of the most expensive fruits that's available. Yeah. And I mean, it's freaking amazing. Passion fruit to me tastes like incredibly intense, very tart, like mango tropical fruit flavor. It's like when you get that perfect sweet, almost tart mango, passion fruit is that concentrated in times 10. There's just a massive intensity to it. It's also a super weird fruit to eat because comes in like these little
hard
fruit things.
Yeah.
You cut them in half and it looks like alien innards in there. Yeah. It's like yellow. I mean, it's really similar to pomegranate where you're kind of eating these seeds. But pomegranate holds together almost like a corn kernel.
Right.
Yeah.
Passion fruit is like
mush.
Gel. It's like gel that's just around this seed. And but yeah, I mean, we joke sometimes that like we're pretty sure we could just, if we put enough passion fruit in a beer, we could call it a sour and we wouldn't even have to sour it.
Yeah.
Because it's so intensely tart.
Yeah.
And it's great. It complements that lactic tartness from a kettle sour just really well. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
And your sour beers, if you can tell us, is there any specific kind of yeast strain that you use for those or?
Yeah, so we have a house sour culture that we keep alive. So that was one of the things that, like, back in 2015, we were one of the first breweries working on, and we worked with our micro lab and then a few other breweries across the country when kettle sour started getting really popular. They had only ever really been done it was a really niche beer. It was barely ever done. It was sometimes done as a one-off. And then we wanted to push these out into, always be making one. And there was not a lot known about how do you keep a sour culture going for kettle souring.
Yeah.
And so we worked for about 9 months with our lab and these other breweries, all troubleshooting this. And so in the 6 years that we've had that going, I think we've only killed that mother culture once or twice.
Well, good for you guys.
And so then we have the ability, we can just reboot it and start over again. But we keep that going all the time. It produces the sour profile that we like. It does it in the time frame that we need it to do it. It works really well. So we have our own house souring culture that we use. And then depending on the sour that we're doing, we might use a variety of different yeast strains. We keep about 3 or 4 in our brewery all the time for different purposes. But most of the time we're using our house ale strain for that. We want something that's pretty neutral. We need something that's also a really healthy and tolerant yeast strain because all of that acid and stuff that's built up in the sour beer, that's there right at the start of fermentation for the yeast.
Gotcha.
That's pretty toxic to yeast. It makes it an inhospitable environment for them. So you need something that's pretty hardy, pretty strong. There's some yeast strains out there that are really great for the delicacy that they produce, but they're relatively fragile. So we need something that can tolerate that acidity.
Yeah.
So we use our house ale strain, which is kind of just kind of a super producing American ale strain.
Cool.
Are you pasteurizing the sours at all, or how are you preventing from re-fermentation in the can, or have you had that issue?
So we don't. I don't think that any one mechanism like that is going to be a fail-safe for you. So we've kind of developed our own. It's 3 prongs that we use on that. So there's 3 different treatments, kind of process things that we do to our sours to prevent any re-fermentation. Obviously we don't talk a lot about what all of that is.
Yeah. You don't have to go into it. Yeah.
I think that's a huge problem. And honestly, I would say over the 2 to 4 million cans of sour ales we put out in the last 2 years. We've maybe heard of 1 or 2 incidents where a beer may be re-fermented, and that was usually it got put up in a kitchen cupboard or a hot car for like a month.
Yeah.
And I think that at a certain point that might just be a pressure issue.
Yeah.
But we've never had like the exploding can. We've only had like the slow kind of little gushes over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that. But yeah, we were, we've been doing fruited sours for a long time, but they weren't always these crazy level fruited sours.
Right.
And so when we kind of inched out our first ones of those crazy ones, and they took off, we actually dialed way back on how much we put out and spent about 6 months figuring out how we were going to get this figured out. If you go into the boiler room at the brewery, it's like a library of beer releases because we've got can lots from almost every beer we've released, and they're sitting in the boiler room, which is, always about 90 degrees, and they're all pristine, sitting there looking like the day they went in.
Good.
So you guys clearly know a good amount of what you're doing. Is there any kind of education that you went and did to learn all this information? Is just trial by error?
We talk about like the internet. It's an amazing thing. If you have enough time, you can teach yourself anything. But yeah, my background's in microbiology and biochemistry. And so that just produces, at least I'd say, it doesn't produce the answers, but it teaches you how to start learning, how to, there are ways to inhibit in fermentation, or this is what, these processes would do. And we have to go back and
teaches you how to think almost. Yeah.
Well, and I might have learned how to do that in a lab to like a single jar of something, but we're talking about, huge 100-barrel batches of stuff. There's a scale up to that too. Like some of the things I knew about, like I could do that as I'm, mixing that's one treated process, but we're talking about major pieces of equipment here or different things there's been a lot of education and training, and, we have a lot of great friends in the brewing industry that are doing really similar beers to us. And, those clubs stay pretty tight, and we all problem solve together on some stuff.
What's frustrating for you in the beer industry right now?
Yeah, I think that, we talk about this a lot at the brewery, and I don't know if it's some of the pandemic, everyone's stressed, but like the internet troll aspect that I think has crept into craft beer is starting to get really toxic. I mean, it's tough for some of our staff sometimes, and it's not even just our brewery. Sometimes it's friends of ours or talking about different styles. And, I really believe that you drink whatever the hell you want and leave the rest of it alone. If you don't like black IPAs, don't shit on black IPAs. I mean, just don't drink them. That's when there's, 4,000 breweries in the country and everyone wants something new, but they also don't want to be shocked too much for some reason. So, I mean, if you ask us to do 120 new beers in a year, and we're not trying to make 120 beers that every single person's going to like. We're going all over the place. Right. And I think sometimes, I don't know, people get over these like purity laws and get wound up, and we just don't care. we want to make the beers whatever we want to do. And I think just some people that are just getting highly negative about beer, and that's not what it's supposed to be. That's not why any of us got into this. And I mean, and that's what I'm saying. If there's beer that is absolute crap, or it's massively flawed or whatever, absolutely that should be critiqued, or that should be brought forward or whatever. But like, if you hate passion fruit and you drink a passion fruit beer and then you just go off on a rant about, out of your way to try and ruin this beer, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you find that negativity more on apps like Untapped, Beer Advocate, or do you see it more on Instagram, Facebook now?
Actually, I see it. Untapped is actually, I think, kind of chilled itself out.
Has it? Can I ask this question? Has Untapped chilled itself out because Instagram has become a cesspool, or has?
I actually don't think Instagram's the worst either. I think Facebook is the worst.
Okay.
I think
Facebook
just because
groups are pretty bad, right? Yeah.
Yep, the groups and stuff, and it becomes these dog piles. That some people get into. And I think that with anonymity and people get real confident behind that keyboard and a sock puppet account, they just want to they just want to shit on some stuff. And,
Yeah.
and I think that people intentionally post things to get reactions because they're
100%.
they're feeding their own dopamine needs to get likes and reactions and comments.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, you know, there's awesome people in the craft beer industry, and people are really pouring their heart and passion into this stuff. Don't shit on them for doing that stuff. I mean, these are real people behind these things, and you know, shame on you for stepping in the way of somebody's, you know, pride or some product that they really put their name on. And why don't you go out there and do your own thing? And so I think Instagram for us, we mostly see Instagram be pretty positive. You know, that Instagram's content based, and so
Facebook's opinion,
yeah, and Facebook is a community space. It's an opinion, and you know, so yeah, but I think, you know, Untapped used to be. I thought that there was a lot of people that wanted to be beer critics, and so they were started out on Untapped. And I think everyone's kind of gotten away from that. They're doing it the way they like it. They might put some journal notes for themselves on there, but it's really, I think, toned down from what I see.
Okay,
cool.
But yeah,
I'm glad to see that, because we haven't asked that particular question in a while, and it's interesting to hear since the pandemic. I think we started reintroducing that one, but because a lot of brewers were like, "Fuck Untapped" for a long time.
It was difficult, and I think, you know, as a brewer, you can go through a beer, and, you know, within like a week or two, we're gonna have 2,000 check-ins on a beer that we release. And you will only remember the 2 comments that were negative. And so there's a fortitude that you need to have to go through and handle those. But I think the thing that's great about Untapped too is that it's gotten such mass usage that the law of averages just take over.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
You know,
every beer is a 3.5.
So if you look at a beer, and, you know, it's pretty hard for your local hype boys to influence a beer anymore, because, like I said, you're going to get 2, 5, 6,000 check-ins on this beer. You know, the 10 fanboys that are always at every release, they have no impact on that anymore. And so that aspect's kind of removed, and it gives us really good feedback on things. That we've seen some beers that we put out that we knew were out there. And what's crazy about Untapped is, like, we'll go through the check-ins, and it's funny because it's only 1 stars or only 5 stars. Nobody touched
no
one of those. So no in between. You either loved this beer or you hated this beer. And and I like being able to, you know, rather than just looking at the average, I like being able to look at that metadata and see that, because that gives us some idea of what, like, all right, this one was we really hit a small target of people on this beer.
Yeah.
That is actually pretty cool to see.
Yeah. All right, so I am curious, because I want people to, when it's safe to travel abroad and go to these different beer communities. We talked about Fargo a little bit earlier, but let's find out a little bit more about the food, the beer, the music scene, the community aspect of Fargo. But first,
a word from our sponsors.
Take it away, Ryan.
Are you a solo artist, band, podcaster, or anyone else who needs recording services?
Well, we got a place for you where your vision can become a reality.
Welcome to Small Pond Studios, built by hand with heart and sweat equity by musicians for musicians.
Go to smallpondstudios.io to reach out to get more information. And make sure you let them know that Brute sent you. Hey, Sound Guy Ryan here. Didn't know if you heard, but we're a part of the Hopped Up Network. There you'll find other informative podcasts about beer. So go ahead, follow them on social media, and visit them on their website, hoppedupnetwork.com, to learn more about the people, beer, and breweries from around the country. And until next time, thanks for listening. Cheers.
All right, we're back. Like I said, on the other side of the sponsor bumps, people are going to be traveling soon. COVID is wrapping up. More and more people are getting vaccinated, and people are feeling a little bit more comfortable to go into these amazing spaces.
Yeah.
Why should people go to Fargo? What's going on with the music scene, the beer, the food, the community? What's cool to do there?
Yeah. So, there's no, we don't have like a, like major tourist attraction thing. It's just a really cool community. We have a really vibrant, restored downtown that's full of local restaurants and shops. And there's like, you can't come here and not notice how hospitable, how friendly this kind of Midwest nice is up here. So I think the people are awesome, and there's something just really approachable about everything in Fargo. There's nothing that's too highbrow, or even like our fine cuisine places are actually just like really casual and cool, and it's amazing food. But if you're wearing a t-shirt and jeans and you're just feeling like getting a little fancy for food that night, there's no problems going into that restaurant. It's just really cool. So I think Fargo is a really cool place for like those long weekend vacations. You want to check out a cool community, come here and have some fun, unique food. And it's just a really cool Midwest experience.
Awesome.
People are nicer out there too.
Yeah. Much better than those Bostonians.
Bostonians, that's right. Yeah. So what can people, I mean, when I think of Midwestern towns, I think of, your domestic beers. How did you get people into your brewery who were,
drinking like green?
Like my dad is loyal to Coors Light. How did you get my dad into your brewery and step away from Coors Light?
We told him that it's cool that he drinks Coors Light, and we also love that, but we don't do anything like that. So this is different. No, I mean, we have an awesome like rice lager that we always have on tap, but really we did that by trying to be something different. We are not going to win this battle of trying to make beers just like the macro beers and convert people over to that, because there's lots of reasons why people drink macro beers. It's cost, it's convenience, it's consistency. It's because it's everywhere, and we're never going to be that size or have that price point. We just can't do that and still be the small, company that we want to be. So we wanted to be something totally different. So we produce beers that are way outside the boundaries of maybe what even like your dad that drinks Coors Light would even think of. So our fruited sours, people love them because they're like having a smoothie. Those hazy IPAs, those can be like these incredible soft, fruit notes, and they're not the typical IPA that you would think of. And we convert a ton of people. They're like, I tried this IPA a few years ago, and it was so bitter. And they'll say, I prefer fruity, something like peach or whatever. We'll throw an IPA that's really peach forward at them and say, try this. I'm like, yeah, this is great. What kind of fruit is in this? I'm like, no, it's like a 9% double IPA, and it's got a crazy amount of hops in it. But so I think just kind of getting people way past those boundaries and into these different beers. So that's how we've gotten people into craft beer. That's, we did it our own way. We're not trying to do the same beers that are available somewhere else. We just want to do our own thing and have fun doing it. And if we find some people that want to come along and party with us, that's awesome. That's what the whole point is. So that's what we've tried to build at our brewery and our tap room. And that's what we're building in the future in Fargo.
Yeah. Speaking of the future, what's next for you guys? What are you brewing on? Any plans for expansion?
Yeah, we've got some pretty big plans up here. So right now, we're in about a 15,000 square foot brewery. It's a 140-year-old railroad building. So it's awesome. This beautiful brick building full of windows. It's all old brick and wood timber. Nice. I don't know if you can kind of see behind me, you see some of those. I'm up in the second story up there, but so it's this great building, huge open space, and it really makes this, like we call it, like this Norse beer hall feel to it. We don't do any food here. We don't want to do food. That's not our gig. But we've got some great relationships in town, and we have this vision for creating a even bigger destination in this community space in Fargo. So attached to the back of our brewery, we're building a 100,000 square foot food hall, event center, and hotel.
And a hotel. All right.
That we break ground on in a couple weeks.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
So that's like the first brewery that I've heard has a hotel.
So we'll have about 20 different vendors in there. There'll be a couple restaurants, like a cheesemonger, ice cream, artists, potters, different things like that, some retail shops. They're all small local Fargo businesses that we think either need a different place or a stepping stone to get up from, like maybe a farmer's market up to like mortar. But also we wanted to create this collaborative business community where we we're trying to make our own neighborhood that's just indoors 24/7, 365. And so it's this really cool partnership with all these local businesses and a really great diverse option there. And then the event center gives us, we love doing events. We love doing these like really tailored, super fun, weird events. But we're busting at the seams at the brewery. So we needed a space to do that, maybe 10 times a year. And then also we are always inundated with people that want to have their wedding here. They want to throw their corporate event or their Christmas party. And we could shut down the brewery and have 200 or 300 people here, but we're not going to we can't shut down the brewery.
Right?
No, because it's about a community. We want the tap room's a community space. That's not to be closed off on Fridays and stuff like that. So we needed to build that. So then now this event center gives us that opportunity to do that. So there's 2 large event rooms, a whole mezzanine and breakout space. And then honestly, we're probably one of the major reasons why people come to Fargo and have weekend trips here. They come out for beer releases.
Yeah.
They're always asking us, where should they eat and where should they stay? And
now you're going to be like Drekker, just stay here.
We got it all for you. And so we wanted to provide a really cool, unique lodging experience. We wanted that to be tailorable and customizable. So we've got, a whole bunch of these hotel rooms that are all custom designed. They're all done with our artwork. Cool. Some of them tell some of the backstory behind the beers or some other little Easter eggs to them.
So we can themed rooms, if you will.
Yep. Yeah. They'll all be individually themed.
Cool.
And then you can have your fridge full of the new release beer that you're coming in for, or you can get awesome. You can have fresh coffee beans from the coffee roastery downstairs, or if you want a bouquet of flowers waiting for you because it's a special weekend, that can come up from the florist that's downstairs. And so we can really build these really cool experiences, and that gets closer to the core of what we want to do. Rather than just make beer, we want to create weird and fun experiences where people enjoy their life and feel some kind of wonderment in it. And we're trying to go beyond just the product we're most known for. We're trying to make sure that we can catalyze every opportunity with that.
Yeah.
Love it. Well said.
I don't think I can top this. So I don't want any listeners to think I'm an ass, but the next question I had was what about seltzers? Are you guys doing hard seltzers? I feel like such a jerk asking that question after that amazing, this is so badass. I'm so excited to actually go to Fargo and experience what you guys are going to be doing in the future. I have to preface by saying that.
So we've been working on seltzers for a long time. We are not going to do an alcoholic LaCroix. Like I said, for the same reasons that we don't brew Coors Light and try and replace those for people.
Right.
We see an incredible opportunity in what seltzers are and how we could use that to just blow past the other barriers that we've kind of been up against before. So we're looking at seltzers as a way to do gluten-free, no lactose, crazy smoothie stuff. There's flavors that we love doing. There's some flavors that we love doing in our sours, or we want to pull off in our sours, but with the sour base or that tartness that's in there, it doesn't land quite right. For fruit or things like that, it's unbelievable. It really elevates that flavor.
So
some more.
Sorry, not to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I think chocolate. We use a lot of chocolate, but every once in a while, with some of the directions we want to go with that. At a certain point, chocolate doesn't work anymore. You need chocolate to be with it. It needs to be with like a ton of fruit so that the fruit kind of takes that acidity and the chocolate stays separate. But I'd say on that savory end, savory or decadent end, chocolate, things like that. We also want to bridge into, let's say, mocktails or not.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's some really. Yeah. So, we could recreate all kinds of things, I love tiki drinks. We love old fashions and Vucarays, those classic cocktails. And there's ways we can recreate that when we have a 20% seltzer base that we can use. And so there's really fun things that we can do with that. And then we've been working for a long time on ways to get beer totally out of your glass and into a whole other realm. And so we've been working a lot on soft serve I don't mean slushies.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, we've heard of some breweries just starting to do the soft serve. That's pretty cool.
yep, straight up soft serve. And you need for that to still be what we think of as beer or alcohol. You know, I that can't be a 1% alcohol ice cream cone. To me, that needs to be, you know, we want to produce a 5-6% alcohol cone.
Yeah, there's a brewery around here that's doing stouts on
Yep.
yeah, which is gonna be crazy.
And so
That's
you
cool.
can't. So you need something like a seltzer base to almost help get that alcohol back up. So there's some breweries, you know, I know some like brew pubs that are doing them, and they're using like a bar where they're using distilled alcohol to beef that up. But we're a brewery, we can't do any of that stuff, so we have to do it just through the beer we can make. And so that's where we start seeing seltzers play into that. And so there'll be some crazy smoothies, some mocktails. We'll probably have we do quite a bit of cold brew coffee and like oat milk lattes that we have on tap here at the brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Currently those are alcohol free, but now we can offer a like oat milk
version,
a hard oat milk latte, things like that. And so then when we get into the event center and when we're trying to do events and weddings or some of these custom themed things, we can even go into using that to make, you know, custom designed craft kind of beer cocktails for them. And there's no limits on what we can do really with.
That's awesome.
When we start using seltzer base for that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Super excited.
You've talked a lot about giving back to the community, right? You know, you want to be a community space. But what is the Fargo, North Dakota beer scene community like?
Oh, what I thought you were going charity with that, but now you're going for like the beer scene. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, Fargo's got a great beer scene. There's a really cool mix of breweries here where everyone's kind of doing their own thing. A lot of us started around the same time, and there's a lot of, you know, community events that we get involved with. There's a like phenomenal farmers market that almost all of us are at every Saturday in the summer and serving beers. And it's fun to have these overlapping areas where we get to hang out together and do that stuff. And then, you know, we're kind of out here by ourselves. We're not in like a major metro area. So it's nice to have a good group of breweries around here, because every once in a while, you know, a pallet of this kind of grain shows up 2 days, or is coming 2 days later. And so we help each other out with that stuff. And that's what's great about the brewing scene, is that, you know, you can lean on each other for things like that, help each other out. And then we also, at the end of the day, we don't always want to drink our own beers. We want different stuff. And, you know, we know the beers that we make, and that's kind of been our brand. Because of that, there's certain beers we just probably aren't going to do, but it doesn't mean we don't love them. So it's awesome having other breweries that have a whole, you know, different ways of doing it, different beliefs around that. And like I said, American IPAs just don't really fit into what I think Drekker is going to be doing on our thing. But there's a couple of breweries in town that make phenomenal American IPAs. And so I love going there and having a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into one of our questions. What is in your beer fridge at home? What are you drinking?
So when I'm at home, I don't really traditionally drink beer.
Okay. What do you drink?
Sound guy Ryan's holding his head. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you can probably imagine, I'm not home that much.
Right.
I'm here a lot. My beer fridge always has a lot of the new releases and Drekker stuff, because the neighbors come over and they're usually just shocked if I don't, because they're coming over looking for one of my beers or a beer they couldn't get at the release. And so I try to keep some of those around, but those are more for like the friends and neighbors that stop over. Personally, if I'm drinking at home, it's probably bourbon, scotch, or I'm making like a painkiller or like an old fashioned or something for myself. Nice. That's my jam.
Yeah.
Ryan, you got a question?
Ryan's into it.
Yes, I want to know, what do you want to learn more about?
Yeah. You know, so as a brewer, I think one of the things I really want to learn more about, and then that I try to get into, is as we build up a barrel age. I mean, we have barrel aged stouts are another huge part of what we do. I'm always trying to learn more about the distilling world and what's going into, you know, why they're selecting the certain wood that they're doing, or the char level, what it is in the different mash bills that they're creating. Because I mean, I love learning about why they did that for the spirit that they did, but then I love learning because now I'm going to try and take that barrel and there's remnants of those things they did. And we can capitalize on the reason why they selected their barrels, what they think they do for them.
Right.
A different distillery has a different approach to it, a different thing. And we can take, we like building a diverse library of barrels. And it's really cool then to see that come together. They spend 18 months, our beer spends 18 months in those barrels. And when we learn really well from those distilleries, we can pull that off in some really cool blends, and then we can produce. And I love learning from the distilling world.
Yeah, it's completely different. Cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But it melds really well with beer.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to kind of bring the two together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I want people, as we mentioned, I'm sure you know, we want people to go to Fargo. We want people to go to Drekker.
Yeah.
And we want people to experience a new beer scene. So where are you physically located?
In Fargo, North Dakota, our address is 1666 First Avenue North. We're just west of like what would be considered downtown Fargo, so maybe a couple blocks outside of downtown. We're kind of in this older industrial park area. You can look us up. Hit up our Instagram and Facebook and website. That'll get you all the information about coming here. And we love getting messages from people too, like as they're planning these trips about, when they're thinking about coming, where should they stay? What restaurants should they hit up? We're always happy to give recommendations and share some of our favorite places to go. Which I think, to me, even when I go to like New York City, I don't want to do the tourist stuff. I want to get the insider trips. I want to know like, what's that hole in the wall bar where you guys hang out? Because that's the experience I want. I want to see that stuff in another city, another community. We're happy to share that stuff.
All right, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh,
I want to know the most towny bar to go to when I go to Fargo. I want to know the best place to get a burger in Fargo.
Ooh.
And I want to know the best place to get dumplings in Fargo.
Yes.
So dumplings might have a different thing here because there's some like German overlap. We have a thing called Spetz.
I know it's Spetz. Oh yeah. So that's good. We'll classify that. We'll take that.
We'll take that.
So there's a place called Wurst Beer Hall. It's this phenomenal German kind of modern steampunk bar place. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I can kick two, probably almost three with that one. It's one of our favorite places to hang out and drink beer.
Sweet.
They've got this awesome Spetzel. You can get traditional Spetzel with gravy, or you can get Spetzel mac and cheese. Our old brewery used to be next door to them, and the Drekker special was the Spetzel mac with the jalapeno cheddar bratwurst on it because we ordered it every single day for lunch.
Oh my god,
that's awesome!
So I think they have a phenomenal burger, and then there's there's an OG like hole in the wall place in Fargo or in Fargo Moorhead called the Hi Ho. And they make these just awesome, greasy, hole-in-the-wall dive bar burgers.
Perfect.
So that's great. And then I think like the like towny bar is probably going to be if you're in like service industry, it's going to be Duffy's. It's this little tiny kind of Irish bar.
Love it.
Super awesome place to hang.
Cool.
Awesome.
So you heard it here first on Brewers. Well, probably not if you're in the industry. If you know, you know. But you heard it here if you're from Massachusetts or beyond.
Right.
Mark, thanks for doing this today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome.
This was a lot of fun for us. And we can't wait to get our hands on some of your beer to try it firsthand.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Erica.
Can't wait. So we always end our interviews with this last question. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the team that we have here and the community that's kind of come around the brewery. It's really great to have this idea of what we were trying to do, but there's nothing more rewarding to me than finding other people along the way that want to come along and they add their own aspect to that. They make it bigger than it was ever going to be just yourself. Yeah. And that's to me where the whole thing snowballs. And that's the point of what we're doing is finding our own little freak parade along the way and everyone adding something and making this thing bigger than the whole.
Couldn't say it better myself.
I love it.
That was awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
Mark, thanks again for doing this.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for having me. This is a blast.
We hope to make it out to Fargo. And if not, we cross paths in Massachusetts. That'd be rad too.
I was going to say, come out.
Come crash on my couch.
Where are you guys at in Massachusetts?
Just north of Boston.
Just north of Boston. But you can get anywhere in an hour and you'll get good beer. I mean, you can go anywhere in 15 minutes.
Yeah, Massachusetts isn't like Texas where it takes, 5-6 hours to get across the street. Massachusetts, I mean, max of like 2.5-3 hours.
Yeah.
So
Well, we get out to the East Coast quite a bit, so
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Come party with us.
Love it.
we're down.
absolutely. Well,
Definitely.
thanks for having me.
No
Awesome.
problem.
Thanks.
Well, cheers.
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 Well, it's Ryan's least favorite part of the podcast,
Only if you could see my face right now.
the outro. Thank God it's not a video podcast because Ryan is just shaking his head left and right. He's so mad.
His hair's flowing in the breeze.
It's actually a sight to be seen. But we have an episode lined up for you this week that we're actually going to tell you.
Dun dun dun.
It's the beer that I drank heavily yesterday, and Ryan is currently drinking right now. Erica, do you want to spoil it for our listeners?
You bet I do.
We'll go ahead.
It's Cigar City down in Florida.
That's right. And we've been having to do these far away episodes virtually. And don't get me wrong, we like doing them virtually.
They're fun.
But we want to do them in person.
Yeah,
Restrictions are getting lifted, and we're feeling a little bit more comfortable.
we are.
But we don't got any money.
And the only way that we can do some of these virtual interviews is support from our awesome listeners. So we have a Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/BrewRootsPodcast. And we also have some other avenues. If you want some merch, we have some t-shirts and some sweatshirts available for sale. So hit us up, let us know, and help us out because we want to continue doing these podcasts, far and away.
Yeah.
So until next week, be kind to people, do your job, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.